What's up, savvy expats? This is Isabella once again giving you Philippine information you won't get from any other channel. Today we're going to talk about Philippine politics and why it matters. I'm going to give you a quick cover of the recent elections, its presidential candidates, and of course, if the new presidency affects travel in the Philippines as well as living here. And without further ado, let's dive in. If you're watching the news about the current events in the Philippines, then you're probably up to date with the political elections that just happened recently. To sum it up, this year's elections were pretty memorable for some things. Firstly, some of our presidential contenders are known for their past heroics and deeds which made them all famous in their own ways. There's Manny Pacquiao, the world-renowned Filipino boxer who promises to eradicate corruption and bring peace to the country. There's also the former showbiz industry member and now turned Manila mayor Isko Moreno, who's the youngest of all the candidates who drew attention years back as he was known for endorsing several brands like Jag Jeans and Bello Medical Group. But the top reason for the elections being memorable is not just these things but for others. Number one is Leni Robredo, the current vice president running for presidency, as well as Bongbong Marcos, who also fought in the elections last 2016 for vice presidency. Now, if you're asking what makes that so notable, there's several reasons why. Firstly, Leni Robredo is the only woman to run for president this year. For our viewers who don't know much about her, Leni was the wife of the former Secretary of the Interior and Local Government who died because of a helicopter crash. They're well known in the Bicol region for their so-called chinelas leadership, which means flip-flop leadership, since they involved the rural people when making government decisions and also created successful poverty alleviation programs. Now running for president, Leni is famous with the younger generation and also for her successful leadership during the pandemic. Her presidency also inspired what is called the People's Campaign, where people volunteered for different kinds of jobs to help her, from creating campaign materials to spending your own money to give out free food during the campaign rallies. Now, I'm not here to talk about my political views, so it's worth noting that all the information you're getting here is well researched and factual. In short, this is not based on my opinions at all. Aside from Leni Robredo's historic campaign, we have another candidate whose history has also been an important part of his reputation. Ferdinand Marcos II, more known as Bongbong Marcos, is the son of the former president Ferdinand Marcos, who was known for his dictatorial rule during the 1960s to the 1980s, and also the 9-year enforcement of martial law. Many people, especially journalists, historians, and students, saw this era as one rife with human rights violations and democratic suppression, while others hailed the late president as being the best in the country, saying that he did a lot during his term. Up until now, this is still an ongoing debate among many citizens, which made the recent presidential elections much more complicated than it already is. So for the most part, the fight was against the top two candidates, Leni Robredo and Bongbong Marcos, with Robredo's camp pushing for a corrupt-free and humanitarian government, while Marcos' camp calling for unity. In the end, though, it was Marcos who won with an overwhelming majority of votes, as well as his vice president Sara Duterte sharing similar results. So why does this matter anyway? It's not like this would affect foreigners, right? While it may not affect you directly, there are some changes that need to be considered once Marcos becomes the official Philippine president. For foreigners, it's worth noting that Marcos' campaign didn't have explicit details about his platforms, moreover his economic policies. According to Nikkei Asia, this lack of clarity caused the Philippine Stock Exchange Index to open nearly 2% lower. But this doesn't mean that Marcos won't focus on economic growth. In fact, he mentioned that this is what he would focus on at the start of his term, so it leaves us in a somewhat hopeful view that the Philippines is set to come back from its economic slump during the pandemic. Some of his projects worth mentioning would be the continuation of Duterte's Build, Build, Build program to increase infrastructure and employment, and also focus on the small and medium enterprises. Additionally, there's probably a continuation of Duterte's policies on foreign investment, like the CREATE Act, which reduces financial burden on foreign and local businesses, and the Foreign Investment Act, which allows foreign investors to set up and fully own domestic enterprises in the country. It's actually still early to tell whether Marcos will be setting some policies that can alter the Philippine-US relations, but if we're going to look into the past and make assumptions, we can say that the Philippines won't be letting go of the United States very soon. In fact, during the Duterte administration, he renounced his claim against the US and tried to seek closer relations with the country since it failed to have stronger economic ties with China. Marcos might probably do the same, if not better the Philippines' relationship with the United States. The country's sentiments against China is also a great factor to this. To sum it up, it's too soon to say whether the Marcos administration will affect foreigners and investors in specific matters. But one thing to watch out for is the practice of cronyism and corruption in the country, something that's not necessarily new, but might worsen given the fact that this was once a widespread practice during Bongbong Marcos's father's time. But then again, he said that this is a different era, so let's hope for the best. I hope that this video gave you information about the current situation in Philippine politics, especially in the recent presidential elections. We know that you may have some questions about this, so if you do, let us know in the comment section below. If you found this helpful, you can also give this video a like and subscribe to our channel. And with that, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon, Savvy Expats.